Hi everyone, I'm Rob Hull and welcome to Oz Workshop. I'm got a little bit of a lurgy today, so I'm filming inside. Got to keep out of the cold. Our next project that we're doing, which you're about to see, is a little corner unit with a built-in CD rack for a little lady who has moved down, who is downsized to a smaller unit, and we need to match some furniture. So here we go. Well, here's the area which we have to build the cupboard for. As you can see, it's a very tight corner. It's a corner cabinet, and all that material on the floor has got to go in the cabinet. Two things. Firstly, it is a very tight space, so we will make a template to make sure that we can fit. And secondly, the construction of the unit has to match the construction of the ones either side, which were made by her husband, who's since passed on. So the first thing we did was to open up our measurements, which we took on site, and transfer that to an MDF template, which becomes basically the floor plan for the unit. After that's all drawn out, it's off to the saw to cut it to size. Place and made sure the template fitted in the space that the cupboard is going. Then it was back to the workshop and start work. Firstly, we cut all the shelving to size, and then we had to cut the rake of the back of the cabinet, which, by the way, is not 45 degrees. It's cut at an angle of 30 degrees. So the best thing to do here was to make a template which can be clamped to my crosscut sled. All of the shelves were successfully cut this way, and they were all came out quite uniform and according to the pattern, which is a good start. Because there were angles involved with the rear of the cabinet and intersecting joints, I cut a block which I could use against the template to make sure that the angles were right. And of course, then when the saw was reset up, this became very handy. So now with the saw blade set up to the correct angle, we could cut the sides. Using a step drill bit and a block, we were able to control the depth of the hole we're drilling. Construction on this unit is really very simple in terms of just butt joints and screws. But that, in fact, is how the matching furniture was constructed. The pine we had available to us was okay, but it did have a couple of blemishes like gum veins, etc. So here I'm using a wax stick in pine colour to fill some of these veins, which are quite deep. And I'm using a little portable burner which comes in very handy for these types of operations. You can direct the flame very easily, and as you can see, that just drips the wax into the hole or the vein, and then just keep the flame on it for a little bit to get it liquid down enough to drop down the holes and it dries within seconds, so ready to clean up. There's a couple of small but quite deep holes in the timber. Clean up of the wax just with a chisel. Just being careful not to dig into the timber at all. And once scraping off the surface, I just use the chisel as a scraper, just to fine tune that and make sure there's nothing left, no wax left on the outer board. So that just with a touch of sandpaper, that'll clean up pretty good. And then a little bit of assembly. Pretty straightforward. Just cleaning up one of the backboards along the kerf, a little bit of saw burn, just removing that, and to make sure that's a nice straight edge to mate with its partner on the cupboard back. Just spinning that down. Yep, that'll do me. Good idea to sand these boards, particularly the inside surface, before putting it together. Just makes it a lot easier once we start to get to the finishing stage. Obviously drilling, and then we'll secure the backs on as well. Okay, so the cupboard's together. Now it's time to fill the screw holes, and we're going to cut plugs for that, and to see that they disappear. Cutting the first plug just to make sure that we've got the drill and everything set up correctly. Yep, that looks good. So let's get on with it. You can use a screwdriver to snap them off, but I like to use the bandsaw just so it's nice and neat, just in case that you might slip with your screwdriver and damage them at all. So just with a spare block of wood there to keep them in place, just run it through the bandsaw, and voila, we'll have our plugs. Now let's go and plug those holes. A little bit of glue in each one. Pretty self-explanatory. I didn't, probably a good idea to try, well, it is a good idea, and I was trying to line the grain up. I wasn't overly successful, only because I had difficulty on the plug, because it was such a plain piece of pine that I cut. I had never mind. It didn't matter too much in the scheme of things. So we just hit those with a plane and bring those down flush with the face of the timber. And as you can see, they're pretty good with the plane. We just hit it again with the sander and take the lines out and leave those plugs quite flush. The lower section of the cabinet has adjustable shelves, and a trick that I can't remember where I picked it up from, but to get your spacings is just to get a piece of pegboard, which of course is all pre-drilled. When you set out, just draw a line down one set or one row of, or two rows, one for the front, one for the back, of holes, and yeah, drill down as many as you need. The pegboard is good as well because you're not getting any tear out from the drill, so it's a nice clean hole. Here we are finishing up a little matching plinth around the kickboard around the base, and from here we'll go on to our finishing process. A top was put on, which I didn't show you, but you can see it in the picture there. And that's already had its prime stain coat on, and to finish the unit I'm using, having put that one coat of stain on, I'm now using a stain and urethane finish combination, but I'm cutting it with mineral turpentine, and you're going to use it as a wipe on poly. And you can do that even though it's got a stain, and we'll see how that goes. Also, you can see I'm using a steel wool just to take any imperfections of the finish in between coats of wipe on poly. So we'll just prepare the unit, and we'll go to the wipe on poly. Just to make sure we blow the unit out with a bit of the compressed air, because it does leave residual little steel fibres from the steel wool. That's my little mixing jar with about probably 60% polyurethane and stain with 40% mineral terps. So we just shake that up and wipe that on. Sorry about the camera here, I'm not too sure what was happening, but it's a little bit on the yellow side, so I'm not too sure what happened there. So we're just gently wiping on the polyurethane. And if you've done your sanding, been diligent with your sanding, you don't need much else at this stage apart from your steel wool to cut in between coats, and even in this one, I'll finally actually do a final cut back and a finished product with steel wool on the final finish, because this is a gloss finish, and I don't, to match the existing finish of the other furniture, which is not quite as high gloss. I'm just going to take the gloss a little bit off with the steel wool, and then I'm going to finish it with a furniture polish, a traditional old wax base furniture polish, to do the final rub out and final coat. And that worked out very well. It was a lovely smooth finish and had a touch of lavender smell to the polish, which is appreciated by the sweet lady I'm making this for. Well, that's the project. Thanks very much, guys, for watching. Just a couple of shop notes before we go. when we took the pattern back to match it into the position where the unit would finally stand, I also took a colour matching stick. We had an idea of what the colour was on the existing furniture, so we created a colour matching stick and stained that. We gave it 2 coats of stain because the original didn't seem deep enough, and so by doing that we had a couple of variations, whether it was stained once, twice or 3 times, and then finished. So we took that back and we got the best match. So that's how the colour for the cupboard was arrived at. And secondly, you'll notice that the CD rack doesn't seem to be finished. I've decided to make that a subject of another video, which I have filmed, and it'll be up in the next couple of days, just to show you how the CD rack went together. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, but just a couple of tricks I used to make sure that everything was in line and what have you. So that'll be up in a couple of days. All right, well, thanks very much again for watching. That's been Oz Workshop, and I'm Rob Hull. Goodbye.